Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Ask the Expert session. My name is Barnaby Page. I'm the editor of ScreenMediaMag.com. I have with me today David Siebert from Janssen Display and Chris Bartram from Crystal Display Systems. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to ask David and Chris to briefly introduce themselves. Then we do have a couple of questions from earlier in the week to answer, and then we'll move on to anything that's from the floor. So, David, over to you.
Good. I'm from Janssen Display, which is a European company specialized in visual communication displays. We've got a manufacturing site in Czech Republic and produce stuff that is not digital at all. We're coming from notice board business, snap frame business, that kind of stuff. And we were pushed into digital a few years ago. So we developed a complete offering that we are launching this year, or relaunching this year, and so I'm the one who put it together, so you might be interested in what we did.
Right, thank you. And Janssen's stand, of course, if anybody is interested, is just over there on the next aisle. Chris, over to you.
Hi, I'm Chris Bartram from Crystal Display Systems. We are a digital display and interactive touchscreen company. So that is literally all we do. We only do digital displays and interactive touchscreens. That is from a large format right down to small displays and includes a number of niche technologies such as the transparent display that I've got next to me. We supply throughout the world, including Europe and USA and South America. So that is our speciality. We take projects from various customers who have a display need, a digital need, that want to move maybe from static into digital displays, and then we help them get to that end result. So that's where we come from within the print market.
Great, thank you, Chris. As I said, we did have a couple of questions from earlier in the week, which I'll pass over to Chris and David before we take anything from the floor. The first one came from, in fact, from a sign company. I know that many of you here will be sign companies interested in moving into digital signage. And this was a pretty broad question. What can a sign company that's not gone into digital signage do to start getting into that market? How do they integrate it with their traditional business? How can they add value for their customers? For no particular reason, I'll pass this to Chris first.
Okay. Well, we've dealt with a number of companies that start from either they're a design company or a static advertising-based company and want to move into the digital world but are not too sure how to do it. Now, they have a choice. They can either employ people to do that and help them do that, or they can work with a company, which is what we do, where we support them and help them with all the technology side of that type of business. And that will include joint visits to their customers. So they take us to their end customer. We're not as a CDS company. We are, as far as the end customer is concerned, a member of their company. So that means that we can help with the technology, understand what the customer wants, and give that input so that the customer gets the right digital solution without our client, so the customer, needing all that knowledge in-house. So basically, they've subcontracted that out to us to support them in the development of their digital signage strategy. So this means they don't have the overhead costs of having people in-house, but can use us then as a company that's constantly involved in displays and seeing where the market is going, what is capable today, but also maybe what the customer could use as far as new technologies are concerned. So it's a bit partly a consultative approach. And that way, then, they get our knowledge and our expertise for free, effectively, and the end customer gets the best feedback and understanding of what's possible in the technology market currently.
That's great, thank you, Chris. David, I wonder what your perspective is on that, coming from the slightly different background. I know that you supply a digital signage platform, for example.
Well, we work with printers and with sign-making companies, with advertising agencies for a very long time. And when we brought the digital signage offering, we had to solve with them how to bring it to the market and how they can participate. And basically, when we do the rollouts, we have a few more things to solve for our customers. And this is servicing of the totems or the digital panels in the field. which could be hundreds of places across the nation. So we need to have one more element to it, and this is a field service organization. So we decided that we would like to partner with companies in each country that could provide that service. And what we offer to our partners in traditional business is to create an alliance that we go to their customer, and we as Janssen Display can offer the full technology stack to run digital signage. We bring the servicing partner who can do the service in the field, and the agency who could be creative agency or print who combine it in the environment that they currently have. Typically, digital signage doesn't stand alone. It's part of some environment, furnishing, or some presentation in store. So that's what needs also the overview and design, and then that's the value added for the traditional partner.
Absolutely, thank you. That's very interesting. And of course, I mean, as both these responses bring out, one of the great attractions or interests of digital signage for the sign industry is the way that it can be incorporated into an existing sign offer to existing customers as part of a kind of integrated communication strategy.
I think Chris had some point.
I'm sorry, Chris, go on.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say is, just following on from David was saying, is that at the front end, it's really understanding what the customer wants to achieve. So, for example, do they want a standalone system? Do they want a network system? If it's networked, how big is the network? Is it going to cover many countries, etc.? So understanding at the front end what they want, whereas some of the companies that haven't had experience with digital just say, oh, my customer wants a display. And that doesn't help. So that's how we can support them in that at that front end. Because if you get the wrong information at the front end, it creates a lot of work further on down the line, really. So.
Absolutely, it's all about the solution and meeting the business need rather than the technology as such. Well, that kind of has some bearing, ironically, on the second question we had. Say we looked at the sign maker's point of view. This inquiry actually came to me earlier in the week from a retailer, I believe a German retailer, running a small chain. Again, really a kind of basic how do we get into it question, but looking from the end user's perspective. If you're setting out to specify a digital signage network, what should be your first steps? What do you need to define? Who do you need to talk to? Where do you take it from there? I'll start with David again.
Right. Well, as Chris mentioned a minute earlier, it's about the requirement, the goal. What is the goal of the digital signage? What I want to achieve from business point of view, and that then leads to the technology implications. Do I want to manage the network across the whole chain? Do I want to put different information into each location? Do I want to allow the local staff to set the messaging or partially set the messaging, etc.? So as those requirements are formulated, then you can judge what you will need. Of course, if you just need a standalone system that runs the same video for half a year, then you don't need a complicated solution. But once you get into more complex requirements, then it's about the central management, about the service, content management, about selecting the right technology that allows you to manage the network, not only from the content point of view, but from a device point of view, to know whether the device is running or it's not running, whether the screen is running or is not running. Once you've got hundreds of locations, you cannot go around and check all of them. So those are additional IT requirements for making sure that you deliver the message in each point of sale that you have.
So that's kind of about specifying the level of technology requirement. I wonder what your approach would be there, Chris, to that question. As I say, from an end user, from a retailer, how do you go about specifying a digital signage network from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, the first question is really sort of almost a blank sheet to say, okay, what do you want to achieve? how are you going to achieve that? And then we can then get involved with the digital signage, because it comes down to a number of different aspects, as David has touched on. You've got the digital signage software. Do you want a diagnostic system so that if the display falls over, then headquarters know straight away for a network system? It may be that initially they have a fear of digital systems. So it may be that we say, well, okay, just start with a standalone system in maybe 2 flagship stores. Make sure you're happy with what they are achieving, the content, where the placement is within the store, and then if you are happy with that, then let's go to stage 2 and expand into a network system. But there are so many different questions that come up then, such as their IT department, their security network. Do they have the skill set in-house to cover that IT? Or is that subcontracted out, which is often by a number of the brands and the big stores, that they actually subcontract that out to other companies? So then you're working with another company to actually make that happen. So, but it's an interesting development on the digital side. And going off a slight tangent, is a number of the companies, the design companies and sign makers that we've come across and work with now, had a real fear of digital, because they're thinking this is taking away from our current business and we do not do digital. And they did not know how they would get to the digital world. So that's when we work closely with customers to say, look, we're not a threat for you, but we can support you get into the digital world. It will only be a small percentage of what you do initially, but it's a reality. You either move with the times or you stand still. And if you leave it too long, your competitors are going to start to have a digital offering, will become known for having a digital offering. And if a number of the clients say, I want some digital, oh, and by the way, I have a requirement for sign making, you may be left out at the front end of any project or tender because you don't have a digital offering. So we're seeing that more and more, because you only have to go to airports, shopping malls, a number of museums. There are digital displays, interactive displays. It is a reality. Therefore, sign companies need to find partners that they can help them support in that side of the business, so they develop forward as well without it impacting on their current part of the business, which is their bread and butter.
And I think there's also this paradigm shift, because those companies, the sign-making companies, typically did business like one single party supplying the whole thing. And in this new world, they have to learn how to work with alliances, because there's no way they would acquire all the capabilities to deliver and support long-term the digital signage solutions. So I think this is one of the thresholds for getting into this, to adjust the
mindset. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think I think Chris brought out a couple of very interesting points there. One is from the end user's point of view, the way that a digital signage deployment can be stepped up, if necessary, from a very low base, from a sort of trial project. And secondly, for the sign industry, the way that digital signage is not a threat, but is a complement to existing business and a competitive opportunity. And of course, one thing that we're seeing on the buying end a lot, digital signage has traditionally perhaps been seen a bit as an AV or an IT pursuit, but it is very much really a communications, whether that's corporate communications or advertising or marketing pursuit, and that's where sign companies, of course, are very, very well positioned to add that to their repertoire. So thank you very much, David. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.